is the omni-active source that is inherent in everything. And so when you think about going forward, it's about you being in the forefront. You know, I hope and pray that there is something about my energy that is attracting leaders. And there was one young lady who just moved to New Orleans and told me that that was true. She said, you know, Reverend Celeste, I don't know if you know this, but you attract leaders. And I appreciated that, because I'm knowing that the consciousness of a leader is not one who's going to stand in the background and wait for everybody else to do what needs to be done. Because a leader will stand in the forefront and take charge and absolutely make it happen. And that's not by a willfulness. That comes from that spirit divine that Bobby was singing about. So when you say yes to this divine energy that is within you, then you are saying yes to your true power. That's what the phrase power of oneness is about. When you're at one with your divine energy, there is nothing that can stop you. So if you are intimidated by that version 1 God that the other people tried to tell you about when you were growing up and tried to intimidate you into being good so that you could follow the behavior that they thought was appropriate, but you don't have to think of God as something that is waiting to punish you, waiting for you to mess up, waiting for you to have a wrong thought. But you can choose to have these kinds of thoughts. You can choose to take these kinds of actions, not because you fear punishment. How does it go? I can't even remember that prayer right now. You know, it's not about, it's the act of contrition where you talk about, because I fear how does it go? Somebody knows this. You know this?
The wrath of God.
No. The pains of hell or something like that. It's like, why is that a prayer? You know, so what I'm knowing is that fear and love don't coexist. And when you're simply calling forth love from love, then you are standing in your light. You are standing in your power. And when you are in fear, you have no power that you are aware of. So when you say yes to enlightenment, yes, it is about going forward. It is usually thought of that a forward-thinking person is a person who's about progress. And I don't know about you, but these last 5 months for me have been really interesting in 2012. But what I know about that, because I know what truth is that these particular months have been preparing me for moving forward in a magnificent way. I know the same thing for you. You know, all of that trepidation about what's going to happen in 2012 are really what we've been trying to let go of. We've been trying to get unloosed from. We've been trying to get untethered from all of that kind of fear that's been wondering and having all of this anxiety and this anxiousness and oh my God, what's going to happen? But what's going to happen is happening internally in and through and as each one of us. We're getting ready for the future. We're not simply holding our breath to see what's going to happen. We're standing in the power of knowing our oneness in God, and we're standing in the power as leaders in the forefront, in the awareness that send me, Lord, here I am, send me. And that's not to say that everybody has to be a preacher or that everybody has to be a teacher or a minister. That's simply saying, here I am, Lord, send me, because each one of us is a ministry. Each one of us is here to reveal the face of God, not only how God looks, but how God acts. And so I was thinking about it, and some of you may have already read the email newsletter that I sent out this morning. But this fall thing we're moving through right now, this season is such a great illustration of what change is, because we see it in the leaves all around us, and they don't just stay on the tree, they fall from the tree. They make their presence known by having an action, and they're like, bam, I'm changing, bam, I'm falling, bam, I'm brown, I'm red, I'm yellow, I'm green, check me out, I'm changing through this thing called life, and so are you. And so when you start to pay attention to that, then you know that you're prepared for our next month's theme, which I'll tell you about next week if you didn't already read it. But right now, you've got to fall forward into the light, because that's what leaves do. I mean, they totally have to deal with the sun and the rain and the snow and all of that stuff. But they know that within them is everything necessary for their evolutionary process. Everything necessary for them to evolve into the next season of their lives. Everything necessary for their roots to get deeper in this thing called life as they expand into their heavenly being. And so when I know that even though trees don't have the same kind of rational processes, they are enlightened by that which is within them, that sap, that energy that lets them know, just like in a yoga pose, you got to anchor yourself on the ground as you reach beyond where you already are. This is what life is doing as we move through it consciously. But I want you to understand that when the Buddha starts talking about enlightenment, the Buddha was talking about pure and unqualified knowledge. Unqualified. Nobody has to approve it. Nobody has to qualify it as valid. It is pure knowledge. And it doesn't come from a book. It doesn't come from a teacher. It doesn't come from anything in the realm of effects. It comes from the essence of your being. Now, Buddha came before Immanuel Kant and all the people who were in the 17th century who were coming into an awareness. Now, granted, it's beautiful because it was part of the new thought evolution of that time. But they were releasing their attachment to the status quo in a way that things had always been, and the perceptions that were, and they came into other kinds of insights and explorations, and they called that period the Enlightenment period, because they were awakening to science, and they were awakening to their own individual thoughts that were not in alignment with what had already been thought for so many years, for so many centuries. And they were saying to rely on your reason. And that is good, but that is not the best. Because you will think that you know it all. You will think that there is nothing that you can learn. You will think that nobody can teach you anything as long as you have that attitude that I have the capacity of reason, and I pulled A's and B's, and I got this doctorate, and I got that bachelor's, and I got this high school diploma, and I got my GED, and I know what's going on, and can't nobody tell me nothing. But the deal is, your mind is not enough. It's only an instrument for your spirit. Because when you allow your spirit to inform your mind, what your heart already knows, then you are standing in your power. Then you are standing in the light of your being, and you are shining magnificently. You are shining brightly. You are blinded light. But as Ernest Holmes told us in the book of the month, that Dhamana was reading from, God within knows by pure intuition that God within you knows without process of reasoning with reference to external facts or existing conditions. If God were to know in any other way, it would be finite. So this is what I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to your spiritual being. I'm not speaking to your intellect. I'm not speaking to your ego. I'm speaking to your soul. I'm speaking to my soul. I know some of you may perceive that I have something to tell you, but really tell me, and I invited y'all here just to be part of that process. You see, Buddha says nothing is lost in the universe. Nothing is lost in the universe. Matter turns into energy. Energy turns into matter. A dead leaf turns into soil. A seed sprouts and becomes a new plant. Old solar systems disintegrate and turn into cosmic rays. We are born of our parents. Our children are born of us. There is this cycle of life energy that happens. Every time we think about someone dying, I look for that person to come alive in the next baby that comes along. I don't know about you. When I think about somebody dying, I think, will I be able to recognize her in that next rose that I see bloom? I think about how will God reveal this energy again to me, because I know it's coming back around in some kind of magnificent way. I'm not losing anybody because I know that the Spirit of God is awake and alive, and although it doesn't need to repeat itself in the same way, there is an energy within each one of us that can never be destroyed. It can only be requalified. And so we consist of everything that is around us. We consist of that. I've been looking at different places, and I went into one place that had a lot of dust on the dust fan, and we started realizing that there had been an exhaust from a stove, and somebody was frying a whole lot of chicken or something. But whatever happened was this energy started becoming part of that environment. And so as you breathe in this dust energy, as you breathe in whatever it is, as you breathe in that breath after the rain, as you breathe in the aromas from the roses, as you breathe in any of the things that are going on around you, the people that smoke, you may be more sensitive to them than you are to maybe some of the other things that move through your awareness, but it becomes part of your being. If you've been watching any of the NCIS shows or Bones or anything, you see that people can find out what happened based on what's in your skin, what's in your hair, what's in your teeth, what's in your bones has been happening because of some experience that you had. It's not that you're ever separate from that experience. It becomes a part of who you are. And in that awareness, we've got to know that whenever we cheat somebody, we're cheating ourselves. It comes back around, not only at the level of your consciousness, but just because it's that energy that has to come back around. It's like a boomerang. You know, there's nothing that you can put out there that's not going to come back in some kind of way. This is the law of cause and effect. This is the truth of what's happening for each one of us. But the second part about what Buddha is saying about enlightenment has to do with the fact that everything changes. You know, I was so grateful to see that there was a possibility for me in the midst of a challenge. I made a move earlier in the year, and there were several indications about that move that wasn't right, and it became more and more manifest as it went along, and me not wanting to play around there during Chicago winters, I said, well, you know what, it must be time, because everything that's happening. I mean, I told some of my students that even my neighbor ran into my car when I was sleeping at 2 o'clock in the morning. That was the last straw. I'm like, I got to get out of here. Something is not in sync with my joy or my peace here. This is not where I belong. And so as I started to move into different circumstances and got really excited about this one place, and it was like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. This is home. I'll never have to move again as long as I'm in Chicago. And it was like, okay. And then we changed our mind the next day. So that's how I went from ain't understanding mellow into I don't know what the topic is. You know, because I thought I had come into an understanding when I was in the conversation with the people, and then I came into an interesting process with myself, because I had to resolve what was happening where I am before I could move forward into the light. I had to resolve what was happening in my circumstance where I was standing before I could be invited to move forward into the light. And then I had realized that I had all of this unforgiveness that I had been carrying, dragging, pulling along with me back from when I was in California like 6 years ago. I was still angry at myself for a choice that I made when I settled for something that I knew I had no business settling for. And I carried it with me, and I kept repeating those same situations over and over again. And I did this for this person, and I did this for that person, but I didn't do anything for me. And then I realized that I had not forgiven myself for abandoning myself. I had not forgiven myself for not looking out for me. Because I put other things that I thought were urgent because of the fear that I was choosing from. So after I got clear, I walked into my home that I'll be moving into next weekend. So I want you to know I understand. The understanding comes. It doesn't necessarily mean that it comes with ease, but it comes. And it can come with ease if you are willing to follow the path of enlightenment. I know the other path, but I know about this path, and this path feels a lot better than the path that I've been on. And so because everything changes, you are part of that thing that changes. And so when the part of me is able to say, whoa, I'm no longer willing to be that. I'm no longer willing to feel that. I'm no longer willing to accept that. Then I have now evolved into a different kind of consciousness that can attract to me more of who I am and more of what I am about. You know, peace. You know, peaceful environment. Peace. And I want you to know. Okay, let me just check the demographics here. Okay, so this peace that I'm moving into is from a person from the Middle East. Okay? And so whatever perceptions any family member may have about foreigners, and any perceptions that anybody may have about those people and those people being fanatical, and about how they're becoming the next wave of Nazis and all of this nonsense that's going on. You have to be able to see beyond the perception and know truth. When the people that are part of my own same racial makeup are creating drama. So I don't care about what the ethnicity is of somebody. I care about what the consciousness is of somebody. When I decide to become aligned with that being, I'm talking about really being ready to really see them for who they are. And that means that they're still my teacher. But I get to choose which teacher that I want to have for this road. I told my yoga teacher, I chose you to be my yoga teacher because you bring an element of spirituality to the forefront where other teachers might want to focus on form and doing it all so perfectly. And you ask us to honor ourselves in the process. And so I get to choose who my teachers are. I get to choose to make my teachers those who will have me have a pleasant experience, a happy experience. And sometimes we need those teachers that are going to take us through the dust and the grit of the journey and drag us through some stuff that we don't want to experience in order for us to be able to make the change within ourselves that we want to see in everybody else. A river flows. Sometimes it flows smoothly, and sometimes it flows swiftly, and then sometimes it gets snagged on a rock or a crop out of nowhere that shows up that you weren't expecting to be there. But you are that river. You are that river, and you are always safe. You are always safe. You are always safe. Even when something unexpected happens. So the law of cause and effect is the third universal truth explained by Buddha, in that there are continuous changes due to the law of cause and effect. Just like you change, everything that happens after that changes. When you go on a certain direction and you weren't going in that direction before, everything around you changes. You know, one of my students said, whoa, since I've been coming to church, everything around me changes. You know, you've got to understand that your consciousness has an effect on everyone around you. You feel it when someone walks in a room. You feel the energy shift sometimes, depending upon what that energy is that's coming into your awareness. But the same law of cause and effect that's in the science textbook is the same law of cause and effect that Buddha talked about. It's the same law of cause and effect that Christians talk about in the Golden Rule. It's the same law of cause and effect that every religion speaks of. In the Mosaic Law, through Judaism, in every kind of teaching, in Taoism, in every kind of teaching, they will tell you, because this cause happened, this effect was manifesting from that. And sometimes people get it confused. Some people thought that people were reacting all over in Islamic traditions because of a video. But they didn't know that there had been a plan going on all along from the time that they had killed the second in command after Osama bin Laden in June, that they were really dealing with that. And they were waiting until September 11th to come along so that they could express it in some kind of way. And they got to have a scapegoat in the United States because they knew an election was coming up. And so whoever's plotting this is doing it in a different way than they've done before. And it's affecting us in a different way because now this time we have a little bit more compassion for Islam because we're going, oh, isn't that terrible? Oh, I can understand why those people are upset. And so now a whole nother element has come in, this compassion, in a way that you wouldn't have had if it had just been bombs or guns or whatever was happening. But in this opportunity, you get to see something else playing out. Even when it means that our Libyan ambassador was killed and different Americans killed in the process. Because even though Islam means peace, there are still people that are in fear and expressing that. And that's why it's so very necessary for you to come forward with your light. It's so very necessary for you to shine your magnificence. Because if not, you who? If not now, when? This is what Hillel, the Jewish philosopher, said. You know, you have to understand that as long as you keep waiting for somebody else to pick up the slack, that you will keep waiting. It is you who you are looking for. It is you who you are waiting for. It is you who are the solution to the very challenge that you are moving through. I invite you to embrace it. Say yes to enlightenment. Say yes to the light of your being. Namaste. Let's go to that place now.